Welcome guys to the first review in a new series of reviews that I'm going to be doing on this channel, which is only the first new series of reviews that I'm doing instead of Gravity Falls because this is a current running show and I do try to get reviews of current running shows that I have an interest in reviewing out as close to the day of airing as possible. Normally this means the next day, but for shows like this one, RWBY, and Doctor Who, for example, which is also a Saturday airing show, that would mean making more videos on the weekends. I'm trying to cut back on my workload over the weekend. So I decided to relocate those reviews to Tuesday. That's the day during the week that I have the least to do. That said, I know I've never covered anything RWBY related on this channel before. I actually just got into RWBY recently myself. And before you ask, no, I do not plan to go episode by episode reviewing the previous volumes, aka seasons of the show. I may, if I get enough requests, talk about the 3 previous volumes, each all at once, giving a review of each volume overall. And I have been asked to do something similar to my Get to Jailbreak ASAP video, but for RWBY Volume 3, since that's when most people agree the show really picks up. So chances are you will see something like that somewhere down the pipeline. In the meantime though, if you are new to RWBY and you still want to follow along with this new RWBY related content that's going to be on my channel, I recommend a video on the Rooster Teeth YouTube channel that gives a history of the show so far, link in the description and at the annotation here. And assuming I manage to do this right, that link will also take you to the Rooster Teeth RWBY playlist, the next 4 videos of which will be videos regarding the individual kingdoms within the universe of RWBY itself, which are videos I should probably watch myself because, like I said, I'm new to this fandom too. I don't know everything there is to know about it. And I am going to be reviewing this episode as if you know what has happened up to this point. So keep in mind, if you don't, you should go watch that other video first. It's pretty obvious right away watching this episode that things don't pick up immediately after Volume 3 ended. There was some kind of time skip, which is good because they revealed a while ago, the crew working on the show revealed a while ago that there was a time skip. And it's good to make that apparent in the series as well. What really surprised me about this episode, though, is it actually starts off with the villains. We've gotten a lot of stuff from the point of view of the villains before. This isn't like Steven Universe, where everything is from the perspective of an individual character. But it surprised me just how much it upped the ante in that regard here. Cinder, who was up until this point the big bad, in this opening scene is very clearly subordinate to more than one other villain. There are other villains there who are at the very least at her level within the organization, and then there is an even bigger bad above all of them, who fans have actually known about for a while. But not only that, but Cinder is still wrecked from what happened to her at the end of Volume 3. All of this seems to be stacked up to make her seem like a more sympathetic character than she's ever been before. Which makes me wonder if we're going to get to see some sort of Cinder transformation arc during this season. I mean, she's still always got Emerald and Mercury with her, and Emerald already seems like she kind of regrets what they're doing. Maybe she'll have some impact on Cinder that helps her to change for the better. I don't know. I honestly don't know. Cinder seemed pretty ambiguously evil up until this point, but the intention of this scene, aside from establishing that there are other villains and that the girls have a long way to go to overcome every enemy that they've made in this story so far, did seem to be to paint Cinder in a sympathetic light, implying that she's going to go through some sort of transformation arc. For example, this is the same kind of thing that happened in Avatar: The Last Airbender when Azula was introduced to contrast against Zuko. That was the initial indication that Zuko was going to go through a transformation arc. And I like the villains here, with one exception. The crazy guy who is like the hunter of the group, I guess. Not in the in-universe sense, but in the literal sense, in that he hunts things down, hunts people down. I didn't like him. I felt like he was a little too over the top. Maybe he'll grow on me later, but then again, maybe he's the kind of villain I'm not supposed to like, so whatever. Point is, this was a great opening scene. It really surprised me with its content, and it was allowed to go on for quite a while because it looks like episodes this season are going to be longer than episodes of previous volumes, closer to a standard 20-minute episode length. From here we move on and we get some content with RWBY and the remnants of Team Juniper, and there's some humor injected in here, but overall there's this really intense sense of dread that hangs over everything. The fact that they're no longer at Beacon Academy is a constant reminder of the fact that Beacon Academy doesn't exist anymore. The fact that they're having to decide on a new team name is a constant reminder that Pyrrha and Weiss and Blake and Yang aren't there with them. And yet you can still see the personalities of these characters shine through. They're not all depressed or mopey because of the bad things that have recently happened. You can tell that they still feel the effects of these things, that those emotions still loom over them, but that they haven't allowed those emotions to completely change who they are. And while it did lead to a bit of tonal conflict throughout the rest of the episode, I really didn't mind it because it was very clear that a bit of tonal conflict was appropriate in this sense. These kids are still just kids. They don't know what to feel in this kind of situation, and they're doing their best to figure it out, and I really liked that. Overall, though, this wasn't really a standout episode in any way other than the fact that I thought it set things up really well. For RWBY and her group, anyway. And for the villains. So I'm wondering now if the first 4 episodes of this volume are just going to be each focusing on the villains a little bit, and then one of the 4 girls. And then we're going to get more interconnected stories from then on for the rest of the season. And I'd be totally down for that. I just hope that they give each story an equal amount of time to develop. I mean, yeah, Ruby is technically the main protagonist, but the other three girls deserve just as much attention as she does. They're all equally complex characters, and some of them have been a little underdeveloped up to this point, comparatively speaking. Like I said, not really a standout episode in any way until we get to the last scene of the episode. Jean has, I guess, commissioned new armor to be made and an upgrade to be made to his shield. And his sword as well, I think, was different. So during the opening fight of the episode, the first fight we got in the episode, he doesn't have his shield or his sword. And we get a bit of a jokey scene where we see Ruby's sense of humor, but then we jump immediately into such a touching memorial for such a great character. Pyrrha was awesome. It hurt when she died. All of the characters felt it, all of the viewers felt it, but Jean felt it more than anyone. And so it was so cool to see that the modifications that he made to his weapons were so that they included metal from Pyrrha's tiara. It also looks like once he changes his armor that he's wearing aspects of her costume as well, but I'll have to look into that to be 100% sure. And this scene perfectly encapsulates everything that I was talking about before, the conflicting tones and how appropriate they are. Because seeing Jean's shield with Pyrrha's symbol on it reminds everybody of what happened to her and they feel bad, but they also see it as inspirational. They can look at that symbol and take it as inspiration. Because above and beyond all things, Pyrrha was a hero. She was the most heroic of all of them, willing to sacrifice anything for the good of others. And that's something that they need to remember at this time when things are worse for this world than they've ever been. It was a great way to close out the episode, and in my opinion, if the villain stuff didn't make this entire episode worth it, this scene definitely did. Though I do feel like it's worth mentioning that Velvet doesn't appear in this episode, which costs at one point. I also think it's worth mentioning the difference in animation coming into this volume. The crew working on the show upgraded their animation software from what I understand, and now everything looks different. And people are bitching about it because, of course, we're on the internet. What else do people have to do on the internet? And I don't see the problem. I really genuinely don't. Yeah, the way the characters move and the facial expressions seem a little stilted. We're going to have to get used to that again, but do you guys not remember that it was a journey getting used to the animation style at the beginning of the show in the first place? Do you guys not remember how much the animation improved using the same software between Volume 1 and Volume 3? Give them a break, guys. This new stuff is so much better at rendering detail. The world looks so much more detailed and the people look so much more realistic. You know, within the realm of them being anime characters, at least. It might take them a little while to get used to animating things in the new software, but once they do, it's going to be spectacular. In fact, I would expect not vast improvements, but improvements in the animation come next episode. That's just how good these guys are. That said, rant over. I liked this episode. It was good. It wasn't great though, but it did get me excited for the rest of the volume, and that's what it's supposed to do, so I guess it succeeded. But guys, what did you think of this episode? If you have seen it, let's get a discussion going in the comments section down below. And even if you don't have anything to add to the discussion specifically, let me know how many of you guys who are already subscribed to me are RWBY fans. I'm really interested in knowing. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.